I'd like to talk about something briefly before we dive into playing our next piece of music. This is what I'll call a learning strategy, and I'm going to visit learning strategies from time to time. Learning strategies are those approaches that you would apply to pretty much anything you're learning, any piece that you're learning. So it's not specifically about learning a particular song. This is a general approach that I want you to be mindful of with everything that you're doing. As a learning strategy, one of the most critical things that you can do is learn slowly. In addition to that, small doses. So the way that you want to treat your practice and your approach to this, you'll find that it will be far more beneficial for you to be able to sit down. For example, in the previous section where we were just talking about our 5 steps of sound, if you were to just actually sit down and play just one note and then just think about swapping over to the next note. Think about swapping over to the next note, bringing your attention to what it is that you're doing and doing this very, very slowly, very clearly, almost convincing yourself that you know exactly what you're going to do before you do it. You'll find that it will minimize the number of mistakes that you make. Now, I have no problem whatsoever with you making as many mistakes as you need to, but there are things that you can do that will minimize the number of mistakes you make. One of the things about the brain is that everything that you're doing, it is learning. So if you rush, you significantly increase the likelihood of making an error. Not that there's any problem with making an error, but when it's unnecessary, it doesn't really support you, because when you go back to correct the error, it's not only learning new material, but you've actually got to unlearn the mistake that you just made. As I've said, it's not that there's a problem making a mistake. That's absolutely fine, and I guarantee you're going to make them. All we want to do is look at those practices that support us in minimizing the mistakes. And one of the most powerful tools that you can use to support you in doing that is to learn slowly. There's nothing that will support fast progress more so than learning slowly. There are things that we can do to help in the learning slowly process, and you'll see that I'll be talking about these as we move through. So, take your time. Each thing that you're doing, if you can just have your attention on it and be clear for yourself that you know what it is that you need to do before you do it, that will help enormously. And also making sure that you're just working in very small dosages at a time. So before, when I was covering the basics, we covered maybe 6 or 8 things. Just make sure you're clear on 1 before you move to 2. Make sure you're clear on 2 before you move to 3, so on and so forth. I know that there's something very obvious about that, and there's something very logical about that, and it makes common sense. But one of the things that can happen in this program, particularly if you're new to the instrument, is that it's like, hey, I want to play, I want to get on with it. I understand that. But it's just a matter of making sure that you stay the conductor of your progress. You're the one that determines how to move forward. And if you really want to satisfy that urge to get a great sounding result as quickly as possible, I guarantee you that the pathway is small doses and learning slowly and being really clear about what you're going to do before you do it. There's more to say about it. We'll cover that when we get to it in any particular piece of music. But for now, that's one of the really critical learning strategies that I want to make sure that we're aware of.